All right, and we are live.
Good morning.
Hello. This dude here, now that I actually don't have a mirror image of myself, is Gylve.
Hello.
He's
Oh, sorry.
co-hosting this lovely. I don't know for whether for you it's a Tuesday morning or for you it's a Wednesday night, but whatever
It's
time
a
it
Tuesday
happens to be
morning.
for you, he's here. Gylve has so very graciously decided to co-host the show, and boy, do we ever have some good stuff for you. Of course, we have the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, some stuff on economics and free markets, but then there's also this one little cancerous piece that that we're going to take a little look at. There's this one. There's this one piece that let's just put it this way. It's pretty horrible, and unfortunately, now it's wanting to show all kinds of advertisements. So I'm going to need to get rid of it. But either way, there's in the description a piece entitled "Oh, Why Can't We Hate Men?" Uh, written by some idiot, some idiot leftist person. Do you know how to disable tracking protection in
I do not. I don't know what tracking protection is, so
Okay, I wonder if I open it up in a different
I got it up.
browser, it'll make a difference. Then I'll screen capture it instead of the other thing. It's an absolute piece of cancer. We have to read it. Actually, no, we don't have to read it. That would be bad.
Spreading the message.
All right. Why can't we hate men? I need to unblock ads again. Otherwise they won't show me the article.
Oh.
So you guys are going to have to see the ads that the Washington Compost sends our way. There's no getting around it. But either way, I suppose things could be worse. So we will screen capture the other browser. Here we go. Why can't we hate men? Would you care to begin reading this lovely piece of work, Mr. Thorbjornsen?
My pleasure. Thing is, I really love this.
All right, so we
It's
are finally 12 minutes 25 seconds into the stream, or even further into the stream, and finally we're actually getting to the real stuff.
the real deep end.
Oh yes.
But yeah, so Susanna Danuta Walters, a professor of sociology and director of Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies program at Northeastern University, is the editor of the Gender Studies journal Science, which is
Okay.
basically who we're talking about here. He wrote the article and is apparently very well versed in the completely real science of sociology.
Yeah, gender studies specifically. That means she knows things about gender that people haven't known for thousands of years.
You can see we're serious here.
Well, I mean, you can't do anything but laugh at this. This is a farce. I mean, you can't take this seriously. A gender
Well, it has its
studies professor
benefits.
wrote it. And I know this is argumentum contra hominem. Not ad hominem, but it's contra hominem. It's completely contra her. Uh, but I don't really care because, if you're going to broadcast in big, huge neon letters, I'm a moron. Right at the very beginning of the writing of the article, well, I suppose we can, poke a little fun at that.
So yeah, it's not that Eric Schneiderman, the now former New York Attorney General, accused of abuse by multiple women, pushed me over the edge. My edge has been crossed for a long time, before President Trump, before Harvey Weinstein, before mansplaining and incels. What is incels, Matt?
Incels are involuntary celibates, so people that can't get laid, and then whine about it,
Thank you.
and
Before
who
live
hate women
streaming
because of
sexual.
it.
Oh,
There's this movement of voluntary, or not involuntary celibates. So all they do is uh, go through life not being able to get laid, and then they blame. Well, they basically just point the finger at anything and everything other than themselves.
oh, fun.
So like if you want to get laid with a stupid person, you need to act stupid, for instance. Otherwise, you're not going to be on the same wavelength. And if you want to get
Oh,
laid with
we're
a smart
supposed to
person,
be.
then, well, you need to act smart. And if you want to get laid with a leftist, you need to. No. Just. Who would want to do that? That's just.
Might I just propose here on YouTube, that just for the sake of being a rebel, there's always prostitution.
Ah. Well,
Oh,
that
yes.
would you would pay for the consent of the other person. Yep.
Exactly. I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah. So, before live streaming sexual assault, red pill men's groups, and rape camps as a tool of war and deadening banality of male prerogative.
What is male prerogative? I mean, I
I think
understand
she
the
put
word.
an
There's
extra R in there.
prerogative and there's male, but what is this? What is this male prerogative thing?
I basically don't know the word, so let me Google prerogative first.
I uh, we can
Sorry.
you can boil it down to basically ability to make decisions. I mean, deadening banality of male prerogative sounds almost like idiotic word salad that we're using to try to make people think that we're sophisticated when we're not. But, I could be wrong. But then again, I could be right. Oh boy.
Oh my.
So, seen in this indisputably true context, It seems logical to hate men.
Of course, indisputable.
Seen in this indisputably true context, it seems logical to hate men. So because you use a 5-syllable word before true, then it makes it more true. And then when you say it seems logical to hate men, that just kind of trails away as something one's supposed to just take on faith.
So yeah,
I
seeing this
can't lie.
indisputable truth makes sense. Of
That's
course
what
not.
she
No, no,
says.
no.
It
I
seems
can't
logical to
lie. I've
hate men. Then
always
she
had a
says, I
soft
can't
spot.
lie. I can't lie. Oh, that's cute. I've always had a soft spot for the radical feminist smackdown. Well, maybe she is telling the truth. For naming the problem in no uncertain terms. Oh boy, I wonder what those terms are. The problem is men exist, right? We need to hate them.
No, no, not that they exist, that they do anything, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. They do stuff. Oh yes, yes. That's in the last paragraph. The problem is that men do
That's,
things.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead.
Well, that's fine.
Rango,
I mean, it just shows that you've done your reading. Uh, it's ridiculous, but whatever.
well, if I'm read.
I rankled at the "but we don't hate men" protestations of generations of would-be feminists, and found the "men are not the problem, this system is obfuscation too precious by half." So she has a problem with people that say, "but we don't hate men."
And she has a problem with men in general.
Yes, so she thinks that men are the problem. Men should be hated. It's logical to hate men. She can't lie because she's had a soft spot for people that take a shit on men. And saying that I'm guessing the system is the patriarchy. So
Of
like
course,
the system of men
always.
as a collective. So men as a collective aren't even as bad. So men as the system. What is that? That's like like is that all the roads and the bridges and the buildings and societies and things that men built?
Exactly.
Of course that's not the problem because they like the system. They like all the things that come with having people who are generally more expendable than women doing work. You know, I mean, if you have a bunch of guys building bridges and a bunch of girls sipping on appletinis together, I mean, you gotta you gotta like that. But then as soon as you know the guys they do something, so something else other than of course kowtowing and bowing and scraping before women, we have problems.
Oh boy.
Ah, would you care to
So
continue?
yeah, I would.
Okay.
But of course, the criticism of this blanket condemnation of men from transnational feminists who decry such glib universalism to U.S. women of color who demand an intersectional perspective are mostly on the mark. These critics rightly insist on an analysis of male power as institutional, not narrowly personal or individual or biologically based in male bodies. Growing movements to challenge masculinity built on domination and violence and to engage boys and men in feminism are both gratifying and necessary.
Okay.
So it's
So
basically
she says,
saying,
please
let's take
continue.
the
So she's
masculinity out
contradicting
of them.
herself. What were you saying,
Hmm.
Ylva?
So she's basically saying, men are the problem, not the system, but let's change the system to change the men, since men is not the problem. Or am I mistaken?
Yeah, I think that you nailed it. Yeah. Men are not the problem, the system is. Which is true. But I hate men. Yeah, I think it's not either or, it's both and. She hates the system, she hates men. She probably
So
hasn't
have
gotten the D for way too long. You know.
probably a lesbian actually. Like
Maybe.
not a real lesbian, but those who say they're lesbians.
Yeah. I wish we had a picture of her. I don't dare go searching for images of her because you never know what you'll find. And after all, we could have children watching our stream. Maybe I should age restrict this. Oh
Oh
boy.
Jesus Christ! She's the most feminist I've ever seen in my life.
Is there a picture?
Yeah.
Could you
Oh, give
get
me a
just
page.
the JPEG file and send that to me via WhatsApp, and then I'll
I don't know how to do that, but I
well,
can
just
copy.
send the link. Just send the link to the JPEG
I'll send the
file.
link.
Like
Yes.
open the picture in a separate window and send me the link to it.
Okay. So, in there.
Because if I start searching for things, bad things
Oh
could
yeah.
happen.
No, like honestly, I've never seen anything more
Is she
screaming of
repulsive?
feminism.
Is she really, really that repulsive?
I'll let you decide for yourself.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not one. I'm a
Okay,
tall
he
blonde
doesn't need to
man.
badmouth anybody. Univa's taking the high ground. I don't really care. I'm married.
I'm not, and I'm a tall blonde man in a hugely leftist society.
Yeah. That makes you the problem by default. You have height privilege. You have male privilege. You probably have looks privilege. I mean, yeah.
So I've sent you the link.
Oh, thank you very much. I will.
Oh, don't thank me. Please don't. It's not the same.
Okay, there we are. Susanna Danuta Walters. There we go. Okay, I will just do view general image. There we are. Copy the link into Opera. There we go.
I can bet you $20 she wears suit pants. This picture.
Oh, I'm sure. So this is it. So she has the short hair.
Oh
She's
yeah.
dyed it to get the red hair to match, or the darker red, like almost auburn with red highlights. She has that weird gaudy necklace.
I think it's
Are
to
those
express that
earrings?
she's
Yeah. So
not
she is
broke.
wearing earrings. So she is wearing some trappings of femininity. That's a little problematic. She should probably ditch the earrings,
Oh yeah.
or just like wear one simple stud in one ear. Yeah, I think that would be a little more appropriate for what it is that she's trying to do. Then she's trying to carry herself with a masculine pose, with the men's suit jacket.
Oh yeah.
But then she doesn't actually have the collared shirt underneath, which means that I don't know if it's a blousey thing or whether it's just an undershirt. Which means that
I
she's
think
just
it looks
kind of,
very blousy.
huh?
I think it looks very blousy, and I have it pretty largely here on my screen.
Yeah, it could be blousey. And then there's and the short hair, of course, short hair. Yeah, so the conclusion that we can get from this is that she probably needs the D.
Exactly, and per some of my psychoanalysis books, her style of colors should signify trying to look serious and professional with a hint of human.
So does that mean that
Basically,
she's
screaming
actually
dominance.
been dealt a really, really bad hand and is trying to deal with it, do you think? And then all she can do is lash out?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
I mean, that sounds
Oh,
so. To one extent, we can feel sorry for her, and then to another extent, we can say, well, there's still no excuse for acting like a jerk.
of course. And Ted Kaczynski wrote in his famous manifesto that he had a theory to why people does this, and I must of course cite it.
Okay.
And it was he thinks people bind themselves to these sort of cases, feminism, for instance, writing shitty articles, basically backslandering an entire gender, basically doing that because you have no real authority or meaning, or basically because you're, oh, what's the term? Vasectomized in real life. So they basically take others other fights and basically blow them out of proportions.
Of course. That's actually an interesting thing. That throughout all of human history, actually, when things have gotten too good, additionally, people turn on each other. When there is no external enemy, the herd species, Homo sapiens, uh, do tend to turn on each other. It seems like we're almost not happy unless we're fighting.
Oh yeah.
So if she's picking a fight, well, anyhow, I'm going to go and return back to our article.
Yeah.
Uh,
Shall I continue onwards? Or,
yeah. So it's growing movements to challenge a masculinity built on domination and violence and to engage boys and men in feminism are both gratifying and necessary. Please continue. Okay.
this recognition of the complexity of male domination, how different it can be in different parts of the world, how racism shapes it, should not, must not mean we forget some
Racism
universal facts.
shapes it.
Apparently so. Apparently men aren't happy enough just discriminating women. We discriminate like extra much colored women.
Or colored men discriminate extra much on white women? Or, I mean, I'm not sure which way that goes, but it probably goes the other way. Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, but it's written in parenthetical expressions as if it were something just obvious and cursory to the whole situation that we should just all accept without consideration. Which means we're not going to accept it without considering it because this just sounds so asinine. So could you please help me unpackage this because I'm still having a little bit of difficulty understanding, well, this whole thing.
So I think first and foremost, she's saying male domination is different depending on where it is in the world.
Oh, okay. How different it can be in different parts of the. Okay, yeah.
And then she just, you know, sneakily slides in the level and how racism shapes the whole shit.
So what about in a homogenous society?
You know, then we'll just have fun discriminating women, I guess.
Okay, I
Not
see. I see. But then how does racism fit into it? Because I'm here in Finland, you're there in Norway, and our cultures are very homogenous. So there's we I guess we don't have too much of a base to say whether there's racism or not, but it's basically one race of people to think about. And you are uh, example par excellence of, you know, Nordic man.
basically, yeah.
so so does that mean that Nordic women are of a different race? Maybe they are. Maybe they're not even a different race. Maybe a different species. That would certainly explain the failures in communication. Hmm.
Oh my.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to, when I upload this as a video, I'm age restricting it.
You broke up. Could you repeat your
Yes,
last
when I
part?
upload this as a video, I'm age restricting it. Otherwise, YouTube is going to do it for me. I'm pretty sure. It's just terrible. After you're done getting your drink, would you mind continuing this piece of garbage?
Pretty much everywhere in the world, this is true. Women experience sexual violence, and the threat of that violence permeates our choices, big and small. In addition, male violence is not restricted to intimate partner attacks or sexual assault, but plagues us in the form of terrorism and mass gun violence.
Okay, I'm sorry, but this is not. Yeah. She actually hit on a somewhat valid point that men are like. Well, the whole historical idea of women going off to war, trying to be portrayed as tough in the movies, it ain't real. And I'm trying to figure out this whole women experience sexual violence, because I know that at least in my household, my wife doesn't experience sexual violence.
One would hope not.
No, I mean it's just that's not
Like,
and she's not into that kind of kink either. I mean none of that crap is that's
I was
not a
just
part of
about
our
to
life.
ask.
What?
I was just about to ask that.
No, I mean I'd say that we have a pretty healthy attitude toward one another. Uh, but but yeah, okay. So we'll just say women experience sexual violence because there clearly are people that do that, and ultimately I would say men that do truly engage in sexual violence, like none of this consensual crap. If a man and a woman go and have sex at one point and then the woman decides the day after, I really didn't want to do that, I'm going to go and call rape on this man. I mean that doesn't count. That's just an example of a woman being a butt. But if a guy actually does go and force himself on a woman or do something, I mean I think the punishment should be very very severe, far more severe than what society gives
I
for
completely
real
agree with that.
rape, for real sexual assault, for things that have been substantiated. And I think that a very strong punishment would actually deter the real problem. But that involves treating both men and women as human beings, as individuals, and looking at everything on a case by case basis rather than just going and saying men are rapists. I'm not a rapist. Unless, of course, there's the male gaze is rape.
I, I've heard some claims of that,
Yeah, I wrote a core
particularly
answer
regarding
about that too,
myself.
which we can read after this.
Oh, I will just point out that even though I'm staring blankly into the air, and if you step into that air, it's not me raping you. Just saying.
Hmm.
Be warned, Matt, I might stare at you.
Okay. Well, in that case, yeah, the whole yeah. Yeah. I'm just not going to follow that bunny trail any further.
No, no,
We can continue.
no. So yeah, that's where I was. Women, or women, sorry, women are underrepresented in higher wage jobs, local and federal government, business, educational leadership, etc. Wage inequality continues to permeate every economy and almost every industry. Women continue to provide far higher rates of unpaid labor in the home, e.g., childcare, elder care, care for disabled individuals, housework, and food provisions. Women have less access to education, particularly at higher levels. Women have women have lower rates of property ownership.
Okay.
And the list goes on. It varies by country, but these global realities of women's economic, political, social, and sexual vulnerabilities are, well, real. Indeed, the nations in which these inequities have been radically minimized, e.g., Iceland, are those in which deliberate effort has been made to both own up to gender disparities and to address them directly and concretely.
Okay. 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 So now we go. So now we go back to the previous paragraph. So so now we're talking about real, or at least seemingly real things. Um. Or at least now we're given something substantial to work with. Okay. So underrepresented in higher wage jobs, local and federal government, business, educational leadership, etc. Wage inequality, and okay. And here's the crux of it: women continue to provide far higher rates of unpaid labor in the home. So, doing all this unpaid stuff in a world that tries to quantify everything can easily translate into unvalued stuff. But as we were discussing yesterday for our viewers in the States, or 2 days ago for our viewers here in Europe, um, and depending on your location, you'll tell me whether it was yesterday or the previous day. There's this thing called division of labor. If my wife finds herself spending more time in the kitchen than I do, that doesn't mean that I'm holding her under my foot and telling her, get back in the kitchen. What if we've agreed to that? What if we understand that that is valuable? That ultimately money is the conveyor belt by which we can obtain for ourselves many resources, but then there are other resources that we can just go out and get ourselves and not require money in procuring and obtaining them. I mean, you wind up having the addition of labor to different things. So I can labor to teach someone something, and that person can do labor in order to be able to pay me. And then I can go to the store and I can buy stuff. And in so doing, I've gone and obtained a bunch of stuff for making dinner or something. Then my wife can add her labor to these things and make gluten-free oat bread or salad or soup or uh, prime rib or pot roast or whatever it is that she makes. She adds her value to this, but she doesn't sell the fruits of her labor. We eat it. Okay, so that means all the different parts add up. Uh, everyone's adding value to the situation somehow. And the problem wouldn't necessarily be that these traditional gender roles are bad. The problem is that other women look down on other women for filling these traditional gender roles because somehow the idea is that everyone needs to be men. My wife doesn't want to be a man. She wants to be a woman, and she wants to. Our whole marriage is predicated upon the idea that I take the masculine gender role and she takes the feminine gender role. We agreed to it. That's it's par for the course. So this whole idea about whining about being underrepresented in something that, well, ultimately doesn't line up with an economical division of labor is is silly because she if a woman is married, are you telling me that a woman that is married to a politician doesn't have a say in public policy? Ha! Stupid. She has more of a say in public policy than her husband does. In almost every circumstance. That is, if she revels in her femininity and uses the resources that she has at her disposal, which conversely means acting respectfully. If women act respectfully toward men, and we act lovingly toward women, we can fulfill our roles in such a way as to not engender hatred, period, either way, and to improve the situation, certainly. I mean, I wouldn't say it needed to necessarily be improved in the same way a century ago. And and just go through the division of labor in a normal, reasonable kind of a way. And of course, with variation depending upon each couple. But unpaid doesn't mean unvaluable. Less access to education. What about the fact that there are more women university students, and this trend is showing up everywhere across the West. More women go to university. Now, of course, more women go to study things like social work. But I'm not making women go study social work. I'm not making women study to go and become teachers. I'm not making women to go and study to become nurses, which, by the way, nurses make a pretty penny. If you have a nurse's salary, pay off your student loans, live for like 2 years in a cheapy apartment, and and pay off your student loans and get yourself a little bit of a oh crap, everything, the world came to an end fund, uh, and then decide to move someplace bigger and better. You will have you take care of your finances right. You'll have a better quality of life than many people who are pulling in upper six figures. It's very, very easy to organize that sort of a thing. Nothing. There's nothing not lucrative about being a nurse or a teacher, for that matter. Even though people complain about the teacher's salary, I would say a lot of it has to do with the fact that people have unreasonable expectations at the beginning and don't deal properly with debt. I mean, there are all sorts of other conflating factors with all these things that people gripe and complain about. That if one were just stoic and decided, I'm going to take it on the chin, I'm going to go and do what needs to be done, put up with a few years of crap, and have a really, really, really good life. And the years of crap isn't even crappy compared to pretty much all of existence up to, say, 70 years ago. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I have no idea how to even respond. So yeah, these global realities are that women are put upon. I mean, do you want to talk about a place where women are put upon? Saudi Arabia. Oh, but we're not going to complain about Muslims. Oh no, we're not going to complain about Islam's treatment of women. That would be discriminatory. That was quite a long rant, wasn't it?
Not particularly long. A nice monologue.
Well, did you have anything that you wanted to add? I think I kind of
I think we covered it.
okay. The floor is
So,
yours. You can continue. You
thank
can
you.
say whatever you want. I'm fine with whatever.
Awesome thoughts. So yeah, I guess I'll continue on, seeing as I have basically nothing to contribute to Matt's previous speech. Yeah, so in this moment, here in the land of legislatively, legislatively,
Legislatively,
legislatively, legitimated toxic masculinity, is it really so illogical to hate men?
yes.
For all the power of hashtag MeToo and hashtag Time's Up, women's marches, only relatively few men have been called to task. And I've yet to see a mass wave of prosecutions or even serious recognition of wrongdoing. On the contrary, cries of witch hunt and the plotted resurrection of celebrity offenders came quick on the heels of the outcry over endemic sexual harassment and violence. We're not supposed to hate them because hashtag not all men. I love Michelle Obama as much as the next woman, but when they've gone low when they've gone low for all human history, maybe it's time for us to go all Thelma and Louise and Foxy Brown on their collective butts. Bless you. I think. I don't know how that works.
Well, I did have myself muted on stream, but that's actually
Oh,
a
sorry.
a question that that I'm wondering is okay. So in a paragraph, which is supposed to be, you know, kind of cohesive and referring to one idea, I'm not certain I understand the whole jump to I love Michelle Obama as much as the next woman, but when they have gone low for all of human history, maybe it's time for us to go all Thelma and Louise and Foxy Brown on their collective butts. Well, what is that even supposed to mean? Like, what's the
Isn't isn't trying hard enough to prosecute all men for being rapists.
ah? She's married to
So
a man.
therefore, his, which is
Yeah, but Michelle doesn't seem to have a problem with it. At least I don't think that I've ever heard her openly griping about her husband being a man. Have
maybe
you
that's
heard
the
about her
problem.
open? Have you heard her openly griping about her husband being a man?
No, I haven't.
Hmm. Well, then maybe yeah, maybe that could be the problem.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how would you like to just have half of the world be incarcerated, or just have half of the world be told you can't do anything? I mean, which is what she goes for in her last in her last thing. It just doesn't make any sense because ultimately, if half the world did nothing, well, then that would decrease GDP by half, which means the standard of living would go down by half. Unless, of course, you're dealing with automation, in which case, men just become more dispensable. So we'll see. Huh.
I can see this Susanna, or personally, I would prefer her trying something like Thelma and Louise. I quite like the ending of that movie.
I haven't seen it.
They drive off a cliff together.
Ah, yeah, this is definitely getting age restricted.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
It's
It's
free
fine.
right? This is the only time I can say such things.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with it. But just do be careful because you know that you never know who might be watching.
Oh, of course.
Of course, if you just don't care, then that's fine. I mean,
Hi, Mom.
Oh boy.
So yeah.
Oh boy. So now we're on to the last paragraph, which is a nice juicy
Oh,
turd. I mean, a
almost.
gem.
Almost the last paragraph. We still have the world has little place for feminist
Oh,
anger.
I thought that was one paragraph. Oops, I didn't realize that there was a line break in between those two things.
Ah, women are supposed to support, not condemn. Offer succor. Succor?
Succor.
Is it core, not dismissal, sorry. We're supposed to feel more empathy for your fear of being called an harasser than we are for the woman harassed. We are told he's with us and not not him. But truly, if he were with us, wouldn't this all have ended a long time ago? If he really were with us, wouldn't he reckon that one good way to change sexual violence and inequity would be to refuse the power that comes with it? So, men, if you really are with us, we would like us to not hate you for all the millennia of woe you have produced and benefited from. Start
Because
with
oh
this.
yeah, we're responsible for all the millennia of woe.
Yes,
Oh,
of course,
yes, yes, yes. We're collectively. What in the?
of course. It's equally my fault, and equally yours too, because we're
Yes,
men.
all of this very, very vague woe. Going to war when women stay home, building things while women stay home, doing things while women stay home, giving women exactly what they want while they don't have to do anything for them.
Take an example from the Viking era,
Mm.
letting you be in control of the entire farm while we go die, for example. I see
Yeah,
that as
but
terrible.
but 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 that's not us per se. Those are our ancestors, and
Simply,
but somehow that makes us complicit as well for any perceived slight or injustice you may have. I forgot. We're not actually talking about people as individuals. We're lumping people throughout all of time and space, and then in insofar as it fits our agenda, gender and geographic location together, in order to come up with a narrative that supports the idea that men shouldn't do anything. But please do continue, Mr. Thorbjornsen. You're doing so well.
David Sanderson brought up a fun point in the chat, which is what about the women who descended from slave owners? Aren't they responsible too?
Uh huh. Uh huh. Well, we have to exclude them because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Precisely.
Just remember, logic does not fit into this at all. Logic does. This is as soon as you read that whole thing about being the editor of some sort of feminist journal or whatever, gender studies journal, you know that reason and logic have they've jumped off out of the train before it starts going too fast down the track to hell or off the cliff or whatever.
Shall I take the glorious finish?
Yes, please do. I just changing our picture back. I I
So yeah, so we're basically at what we need to do payback is lean out so we can actually just stand up without being beaten down. Pledge to vote for feminist women only. Don't run for office. Don't be in charge for anything. Step away from the power. We got this, and please know that your crocodile tears won't be wiped away by us anymore. We have every right to hate you. When it's wrong, hashtag because patriarch. Time to play hard for team feminism and win.
All right, now let's just think of what would happen if I said, start with this. Pledge to vote for masculist men only. Women, don't run for office. Don't be in charge of anything. Step away from the power. We got this. And please know that your crocodile tears won't be wiped away by us anymore. We have every right to hate you. You've done us wrong. Hashtag because matriarchy. It's long past time to play hard for team masculism and win.
I think, like, seriously, in some courts in the States, you could be trialed for fucking harassment or something.
You mean just for changing those few words? Just
Yeah.
men, women, literally nothing else than that? I mean, is someone afraid of hurting her fifis?
Yeah, like, basically, that's the world now.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't care about her fifis. I care about my wife's fifis.
So then we can sit here and throw feces.
Uh huh. Okay. Wow, we spent 53 minutes on this. Or maybe a little less than that because we were spending a while getting our browsers adjusted and so on, but this is ridiculous.
Why?
This is. I don't even.
Truly genius.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. So do you have anything that you would like to add, Ylva? Because I really do. I really do like having your apt words and good opinions.
Well, I'll promise you to disappoint, but I guess I'll just finish this whole reading session with some thoughts regarding regarding the whole thing. Let me just Google the phone number first. Mm, see here. If you do actually run into this woman,
Uh huh.
or shit, where is it? Or anyone like her, uh, if you are if you are in the States, please do call 1-800-950-6264.
1-800-950-6264. What is this?
This is the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Ah, yes. Delusions of grandeur, perhaps, or
Perhaps I tried to find schizophrenia, but I don't have a specific number. But yeah, let's say it takes a particular kind of woman to actually believe these things.
Indeed,
This
it
one.
does. And and I think that it's about time that we would start thinking a bit more about Stoicism.
Ooh,
Stoicism is way, 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 way nicer than griping.
and magical.
Yeah, Stoicism is way, way nicer than griping. So, here we have the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, written 167 AD, translated by George Long. You can find, we are in Meditations, Book 1. You can find the link in the description below if you'd like to follow along. This'll do a nice job of calming things down and causing things to occur more reasonably. Aurelius was great. I guess I'll take the first little bit and then you can continue later. From
Okay.
my grandfather, Verus, I learned good morals and the government of my temper. Government of my temper. So that means that if I start getting incensed at men, that maybe a little self-control might be. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. From the reputation and remembrance of my father, modesty and a manly character. Oh boy. Sounds like Aurelius might be hated today. For my mother, piety and beneficence and abstinence, not only from evil deeds, but even from evil thoughts. And further, simplicity in my way of living, far removed from the habits of the rich. So not being ostentatious. And that's actually a very important point, is that women do often, because of more agreeableness, have a moral compass that is higher or more highly tuned to certain things.
Oh, like in just morality and ethics, or
Well, in certain kinds of morals, I would say that men are better in other kinds of morals categorically. I mean, obviously not on an individual to individual basis, but
hmm.
but women are generally better at understanding the whole getting along of all of society. Like, men can get together in groups and do things just fine and not kill each other. Heck, we can beat each other up and then become friends afterward, which is very different than the way women get along. But in general, not thinking or doing or being bad. A mom does a good job of teaching that. A good mother does. It's a very, very important part of the role. And men also, fathers also teach things about character and virtue. But they're just completely different elements in completely different ways. From my great grandfather, not to have frequented public schools, and to have had good teachers at home, and to know that on such things a man should spend liberally.
With foreshadowing.
I say again?
Is there a bit of foreshadowing I hear?
Oh, yeah. Education, real education, is very, very valuable.
Hmm.
And the best education occurs as a consequence of growing up in a stable home and living a real life. not in going to an institution designed to shield you from reality, but rather in being brought up in an emotionally stable home, doing real things, learning to do real things, learning from doing real things, making plans, going for them, failing, reiterating, uh, going for them, reiterating, going for them, performing all these iterations on the plan until finally we got it and we learned something real. And in the context of our family and those that loved us, those that took care of us when we were little, those that gave us a safety net to fall on, and still managed to grow us up in the right direction. That's the way that education should occur. The community. And then, of course, you can go and if you have friends all over the world that are doing all sorts of different things, send your friends over to there. Or send your kids over to your friends sometime. Take your friends' kids over to your place and teach them things. Just take responsibility for your own education and the education of those in your own social circles, and especially your own children. I mean, my dad had almost every single project that we ever did at home. A project for his sons to learn. Especially me, because I was older. But especially after I moved out, it kind of fell on my brother. And he said he would be willing to. Of course, you wind up having to pay for the profit of a person if you go and you get it done right by a professional. And you would wind up paying less if you just get this stuff and make your son do it. But your son is still going to make mistakes. Your son's going to be learning. And he said, I'm perfectly fine with living in an imperfect house made by somebody who's made mistakes, or spending more money to correct these mistakes. Because what I'm not actually paying, I'm paying for a job to get done. And additionally, I'm paying for a learning process for my children. So household projects were a very simple way to spend one's time and resources on teaching one's children. I remember saying, my dad telling me, go do this. I said, I don't know how to do something. We went to the hardware store. He bought a book that had a chapter on exactly how to do what it is I said I didn't know how to do. He said, well, you know how to read, which means shortly you will know how to do. And that's very closely related to another one of his sayings. There are these things called books. Read them.
It's sort of depressing, really. I could say that to half my class, but I can't.
Read. Okay.
Well, I'm in trade school, so retard alert.
But here's the
Like
thing.
those
Your
people
your
have
your your trade is
destroyed.
a good one. It's like you'd
Oh yeah,
expect that you could have a bunch of literate people going and making very, very good cuisine.
oh yeah. We have like half the class is like highly literate, and the other half can barely, like barely read like road signs. Like it's like such a massive gap.
Uh-huh.
I find it quite funny though.
Well, assuming that the literate ones have some common sense, or uncommon sense,
Yeah,
depending on how you look at it, I think we know
they
who
have
will be
more.
successful.
Well, all the literates are basically aiming to get through trade school, make money, and then go to university. So
I see.
That's quite fun, really. One of them is planning on studying sociology, as a matter of fact.
Oh, help. Would you please continue with the meditations? Ah!
For my governor to be neither of the Green nor of the Blue party at the games in the circus, nor partisan either of the Parmularius or the Scutarius of the gladiators' fights. From him too I learned endurance of labor, and to want little, and to work with my own hands, and not to meddle with other people's affairs, and not to be ready to listen to slander. I don't know how to pronounce this, but Diogenes, I guess.
Diognetus, probably. I'm
Okay.
I'm not
I,
exactly the best at ancient pronunciations either, but I would guess Diognetus would probably make sense
well,
if
let's
we're in
go
the
with it.
Anglican world.
From Diognetus, not to busy myself about
I,
trifling things, and not to give credit to what was said by miracle workers and jugglers about incantations and the driving away of demons and such things. Not to breed tales for fighting, nor to give myself up passionately to such things, and to endure freedom of speech and have become intimate with philosophy, and to have been a hearer first of Bacchus, then of Candaces and Marcianus, and have written dialogues in my youth, and have desired a plank bed and skin, and whatever else of the kind belongs to the Grecian discipline.
hmm.
I can respect that. From Rusticus I received the impression that my character required improvement and discipline, and from him I learned not to be led astray to sophistic emulation, nor to writing on special matters, nor to delivering little hortatory orations, nor to showing myself off as a man who practices much discipline, or does benevolent acts in order to make a display, and to abstain from rhetoric and poetry and fine writing, and not to walk about the house in my outdoor dress, nor to do other things of the kind, and to write my letters with simplicity, like the letter which Rusticus wrote from Sinuessa to my mother, and with respect to those who have offended me by words, or done me wrong, be easily disposed to be pacified and reconciled, as soon as they have shown a readiness to be reconciled, and to read carefully and not be satisfied with a superficial understanding of a book, nor hastily to give my assent to those who talk overmuch. And I am indebted to him for being acquainted with the discourse of Epictetus, we'll say, which he communicated to me out of his own collection. Just tell me to stop
I think that
when you want.
well, that paragraph contains a lot.
I agree.
For the from Rusticus I received paragraph is, I think, very important.
So, sophistic emulation. I guess. Should we say what sophistic is, or should we assume none?
I think we should probably say what sophistic is.
No sophists.
Well, were they even
Which is,
philosophers? That's the question.
that's a dispute we can take here now and spend a couple of hours, or we can just call.
Real points. You wouldn't actually. You would basically try to get by saying as little as possible with as many words as possible, and using the sophistication, which is where the actual word comes from, of your words to to confuse your opponent, as opposed to dealing in real things. That's a horrible way of dealing with others. It's just it's pompous. It's self-aggrandizing, and it doesn't actually accomplish much of anything. So why? Just why?
winning arguments meant glory, glory meant cash, I guess.
Yeah, and it's way easier to win with no merit than it is to actually contemplate the meritorious.
Yeah.
Would you care to pull this particular paragraph apart a little more?
Yes, I can try.
Excellent.
It's also about not being letting stray on speculative matters, which, of course, we can also. I will, just because I fucking can, I'll draw a parallel to Descartes.
Please do.
I've been reading him lately. As Descartes said, I will rid my mind of everything which I cannot be entirely sure. Which I think is a. There's a lot more into Descartes, but that's basically a principle of his first method of philosophy, I think. Yeah.
Well,
So
in that case, I would say that my mind should be completely blank.
but you'd still have physics, right? And you'd still have
No,
like, oh no, how so?
because still, ultimately, I have my own senses. At
That's a
least to
fair
the best
point.
of my, or to the best of my knowledge, I have senses. I mean, who knows? I might just be this brain floating in a vat with electrodes attached, or I might be one electrode attached to. There's just so much that could occur that I'm in no position to actually say anything about reality. Or
That is also
technically speaking, if you're requiring no speculative anything, it's like you can only ever make a best judgment based upon the information that you have.
I would
But
just like to try to point
but
out
but
that
but but pulling stuff out of your butt, literally just pulling crap out of your butt and throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. Speculating about things that you have no knowledge. I would guess that that's probably it. Writing about things that you don't know about. And not just for
for
the sake of learning. Like if you're writing for the sake of looking at a particular argumentation, then there's a logical structure. But if you're writing about something you just don't know about, or you're reading the writing of someone else that's writing about something he's clueless about, that's horrible.
yeah, uh, what is hortatory?
Where you're I'm trying to think of what the modern equivalent would be. Uh, where hortatory orations, motivational speeches.
Basically, like something you say to make a specific point.
No, motivation, like literally the motivational speeches.
Literally like that. Okay.
The hortatory, motivational orations, speeches. That would be, yeah.
Hmm. So
He's not just
yes,
going, oh, I'm going to deliver you a little motivational speech. It doesn't help. It usually doesn't help because if the person's not going to be motivated himself, then all it winds up doing is, I think there's this category of material called was it motivational porn or was it success porn, where basically you're reading success stories and listening to success stories and then kind of getting your dopamine and serotonin from reading the stories and like, oh yeah, I've got this, I'm able to go forward, I'm able to do this, I got this, and then all of a sudden you leave the environment, the feeling goes with it, you're depleted, you're not ready to go, you don't do anything, and you're a loser anyway, and then you come back later and you hear the same message, oh boy, I got this, I'm going to be able to go, and then you actually don't wind up doing anything except for cram your head further up your rear end in being unproductive and worthless. I think that that's kind of what he's referring to.
And then he goes off to not or nor to show myself off as a man who practices much discipline.
Which is nice. These meditations
It's
were actually
basically
for
says,
his
don't
own
be sure.
benefit. These meditations were for his own benefit. We just happened to
Oh yeah.
have them.
Coincidentally, they have been a great benefit to humankind.
Oh yeah, he wrote them because they were good for him. But yeah, the whole idea of you don't show off all the discipline that you do. You know, that's almost like bragging about doing the things that you should. It's like that's
It's
not
basically,
something to brag about. That's something just to do.
oh yeah. So it would basically be if I started writing cure answers and losing weight and be like, oh, look at me.
Now, if you have something to share that would help someone, sure, do that. But don't just
Oh
be
yeah.
like, oh well, I'm practicing all this discipline. I know how to do this.
I'm
Or
reading books.
it's like you have something valuable to share. But I
But,
practice
but
discipline. I read my books. I do all these other different things. Or I go to work. I do my I take care of my kids. I take care of my wife. I just it's like if you need to brag about that, that says an awful lot, and it's not particularly what it says is not a compliment. It's not complimentary. Whether or not it's complimentary, I don't know, but it certainly is not a complimentary thing to yourself to brag about doing what you need to do. But interestingly, I found that sometimes in one's resume, one needs to include these basic things because they become so exceedingly rare. Like
an example.
I noticed that back when I needed a resume, and I suppose I could still need it at some point, and in which case I need to update it. There still needs to be some semblance of talking about the real things that you've done. Like a resume is a place to somewhat brag, at least, or at least to kind of shine a light onto what it is that people can expect out of you. But if you go and say, hey, I did this, people can generally ascertain your character from it. But there are so many things that one would think aren't even worthy of inclusion due to the fact that they're so basic that are actually worthy of inclusion due to the fact that they're basic things that so many people get wrong that actually differentiate you from the rest of the crowd.
But ask a very practical example.
Being able to stay on task, task commitment, doing something until something is done, tenacity,
Hmm.
not giving up. Like you wouldn't think that not being a quitter would need to be on a resume, right? But if you have a list of accomplishments of I went and I carried this to completion, I went and I carried that to completion, I went and I carried this to completion, I showed initiative, I did not need somebody to sit and to sit around and babysit me the whole time. Those kinds of things that you would think would just be a part of life. I finished a course, I finished a book, I finished writing a book, I finished reading a book, I finished making a course, I finished a course of study, I finished whatever it is I finished it, I did it. I had a goal in mind. I counted the cost, I did what I needed to do, and I accomplished the goal. That says something about a person because lots of people can't have a goal in their mind and can't set it, fix it, and do what needs to and accomplish it. But still in real life, you don't go just saying, oh, well, I could set a goal and I can accomplish it, because it's just like something everyone should be able to do. It's not impressive. Of course, in today's world where almost nobody's a stoic, or especially today's Western world where almost nobody's a stoic, it is impressive. But it's so impressive that people hate you for it because they don't do it.
Hmm.
That would be my example of that.
Hmm. I guess I'll include that in my resume.
Yeah, just listing things that you have completed that are valuable. Doesn't need to necessarily be only employment.
Hmm. I wonder what I've completed.
Well, just do things that you think are worth doing and take them to completion. And then jot a little note in your resume.
But can I really ever be complete in my pursuit of knowledge? For example,
In your pursuit of knowledge, no. But if there's a particular domain that you'd like to know something about, you can be like, oh yeah, I can coherently, cogently, and reasonably completely discuss subject X.
hmm,
And and ultimately you don't need to discuss at an insanely high level to be able to discuss with the finest minds in the world about something. Because really their life is a whole lot more simple than or at least being better than 98% of people at things in life is a whole lot more simple than one might think. Joe Average, with a little bit of hard work, can be in the 98th percentile in almost anything. It's that last 2% that's hard. And maybe I'll say 96th percentile. Joe Average can be in the 96th percentile in almost anything with just hard work. Someone someone one standard deviation above average can easily be in the 98th percentile or more in almost anything with nothing but hard work. High average people. Low average people can probably be in about the 80th to 84th percentile with nothing but hard work.
then we should say that 0.01 percentile should be able, with hard work, to actually revolutionize, or at least make some progress in the field, right?
I think it all depends on what the goals are and how you define these things, and that ultimately is that's an important ingredient in your resume. How do you define success? Was I a successful employee? Was I a successful employer? Was I a successful teacher? Was I a successful student? Am I a successful father? You don't just go through life with no aims. You have a particular set of goals that are unique to you, which literally means you need to go and say, I don't give a crap about what anybody else says or thinks, insofar as these people's goals don't line up with my own. I'm going to pursue what I'm going to pursue. Period. And that level of independence will be valued by anybody that has need for thinkers and doers and independent people. If you just want a cog in a machine, then say, I can sit down for 8 hours straight or 12 hours straight and uh, put mufflers into boxes and put a shipping label on it and send it out. Or I can sit around for 8 hours straight and lick an envelope, close it, and put it in the mail or something. there are all sorts of different aspects of yourself that you can showcase. And as human beings, we're not limited to any one of them. The key to a resume is just figuring out what it is that needs to be done in any particular circumstance and showing your suitability therefore.
I must say, I actually will take some of this into consideration when applying for a summer job in not too many hours.
Okay. Just make sure not to include things that the person won't value.
I will be on the lookout. So the next part here is nor do benevolent act in order to make a display. So, don't be nice just to look nice.
Do not do your good deeds before men to be praised by them. I believe that the proverb so goes.
And I believe Mahatma Gandhi said it was one of his comments about pacifism, which was something about not using violence, but if violence is in your heart, you should rather be yourself and use the violence than try to be someone you're not. In a sense.
Hmm.
Remember that quote? I heard it.
Then there's the actual things of changing yourself, of deciding I need to be this kind of a person, and so I'm going to take the hard route of doing the whole self-discipline thing. You can curb your desires. Fasting is actually a very good way of teaching yourself what's necessary and what's not, for example. If you can fast, it's a whole lot easier to do other things. Which is, I think Gandhi fasted. I think a lot of people that did really, really cool things in the history of the world fasted.
Oh,
Especially in the more distant past, where the idea of 3 meals a day or 5 meals a day or whatever, 3 meals, 2 snacks, or 3 meals, 3 snacks, or whatever it is people eat now, wasn't a thing. People would get up in the morning and go to work. They wouldn't eat. They might get a little water or something, but they wouldn't. They would just go to work. No, and then maybe lunch, maybe not. One big meal right before bed, and that's it. And you were keen. You were ready to go in the morning. Your digestion had happened overnight, and you weren't beholden to your stomach. And as long as you weren't starving, you were fine.
hmm. So that should be something to incorporate into your life if you want to learn self-discipline, I suppose.
Oh yeah. The first 3 days are the hardest. Day 2 is, I think, the worst.
Hmm.
Unless you've gone and eaten a bunch of carbs, then you continue getting carb shots all throughout like day 4, and then when then when the carbs just go thunk, and you use up all your glycogen, then you just kind of hit the wall and you feel exhausted there for a while, and that ultimately that normally happens for me about day 2. but that's because of what I eat. If someone else is eating something different, it could happen day 3 or day 4. Or if you're already eating really, really well, or have basically been eating only fats, then you can already you will barely even notice fasting, except for a few hunger pangs around the time that you normally would eat. We have time for one more thing, either on this subject or on another one, and then we will go into our break before returning to talk a bit about education.
Super. Yeah, this is something I find and readily important, which has annoyed me a lot with these speed reading trends. And it is read carefully and not be satisfied with a superficial understanding of a book. I feel that many people fall into superficial understanding of most everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and especially for lack of information.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't really know what to do about it. Read more. Uh,
Read less. Reflect more.
hmm, that's very zen of you. So we take Apollonius. Well,
Say again.
shall we do Apollonius before hitting the bell?
Uh, we can leave Apollonius for next time. The reason is I think that this thing about reading less and learning more can help anyone in their studies, and since we're in the business of trying to produce or provide value for the listener, I'd say that if you can take a book, and the only books I have are actually, here's a good one: Emotional Intelligence 2.0. That is not a bad book at all. So you read a paragraph, and I'll just read a paragraph, and then I'll show you what I mean. Research suggests the average person has about 50,000 thoughts every day. Sound like a lot? It doesn't stop there. Every time one of those 50,000 thoughts takes place, chemicals are produced in your brain that can trigger reactions felt throughout your body. There is a strong relationship between what you think and how you feel, both physically and emotionally. Because you are always thinking, much like breathing, you tend to forget that you're doing it. You likely don't even realize how much your thoughts dictate how you feel every hour of every single day. I read that. Now I think about what is it that I read, and then I give a synopsis. I either write it or I'm going to give a verbal synopsis, and then I'm going to compare it to what is here and see if I actually understood. So, according to the book, you think about 50,000 things a day, and they have a particular physiological effect on you. Your thoughts do. And upon the first reading, especially due to the fact that I was trying to read aloud, that's about all I got out of it. I still have the book here closed. Um, I'm really trying to remember more. He talked a little bit about uh, the, the chemicals that get sent throughout your body on account of the as a consequence of your thoughts. But that's about it. Um, So then I go back here and then I see, okay, what did I miss? There's a strong relationship between what you think and how you feel. So when we're talking about physiological consequences, we're also talking about feelings. What else is it? Both physically and emotionally. Because you're always thinking, much like breathing, you tend to forget that you're doing it. Okay, and then I just go through this and I see, what did I forget? Then after I've gone through it again, I've read that paragraph again, I go and I give my synopsis again. And once I can give a correct synopsis of what's been going on in the paragraph, then and only then am I ready to move on to the next one. I guarantee you, if you before every single lecture, if you're in school, read your school book that way, you're going to know this stuff likely to the same general level, or maybe even better than the professor if he's a bad professor, or a kind of a mentally absent professor. You're going to know what he's talking about better than he will. You'll be able to intelligently discuss the material and the ramifications of everything. It has to do with being conscientious about your reading. So spend more time on that single paragraph. Reflect on it. Reiterate it. Turn consumption into synthesis. Or in the old surgeons, using the old surgeons adage, learn one, do one, teach one. So learn one, read it, do one, cogitate about it, teach one, synthesize it. Go through that process. Take your time. It takes discipline. That takes discipline to do. It's a whole lot easier just to read through the whole thing. And you saw, I mean, I'm a profoundly gifted dude, and of course I can make excuses for myself and say, well, I'm streaming or whatever. I'm reading out aloud or whatever. But my working memory is crap. I can come up with all the excuses in the world, but the end all and the be all of the whole situation is I need to read that paragraph 2 or 3 times before I've extracted a reasonable proportion of the value out of it. And that's okay. In fact, I've read this book I don't know how many times, and I'm still extracting value out of it because I'm forgetful. In fact, if I have a book, if I haven't given it away or thrown it away, even if I have read it, it's because I'm not done with it. So that's, I think, at least a small part of what Aurelius was trying to get at when he was talking a bit about the reading. Any thoughts before we go to our break?
I think you're spot on, as always.
Well, always, that's a little bit of an overstatement,
Okay,
but we can argue about that during intermission. We will see you guys on the other side. Right, well, we're back. Hello, everyone. I hope that you were able to enjoy intermission. I know the potty break did me some good.
And I got to finally see the sun rising in this beautiful industrious area.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately, I have this tarp over the window in order to make it nicer for all of you watching the stream. I'm going to have to go on an early morning bike ride and swim after this whole thing is done and over with. I would have gone swimming before the stream, except for the fact that the pool isn't open.
Oh, I'll sleep.
Well, that also sounds quite reasonable, especially if you didn't get any sleep beforehand.
I didn't.
Well, I did, or at least I tried to.
You're a smart dude.
I don't know about that per se, but I I'm going to go and change the screen capture then to Adobe Reader, so that our readers will have, or our watchers will have the wonderful privilege of reading along with us from the Underground History of American Education. It's an absolutely wonderful book by John Taylor Gatto. He quit teaching back in 1991 at what could be considered the height of one of the most successful teaching careers in all of history, due to the fact that he couldn't stand the fact that his role, by definition, and the proper performance of his role, he thought, and I think rightly so, was hurting children. And so, to give a bit of context here, I'll switch over. He previously we talked about him having written a piece called "I Quit, I Think." He wrote to the Wall Street Journal, I think, a little personal piece about how bad the educational system was and how it was doing children a disservice, and how he couldn't stand being a part of it. And even though he didn't know how he would wind up paying the rent, he couldn't, with a clean conscience, continue teaching, and so he quit. And incidentally, his piece was actually published, and that caused him to be able to embark upon a pretty successful speech giving career. Anyhow, that was essay number 2. Here's essay number 3, The New Individualism. The little essay went off in March and I forgot it. Somewhere along the way I must have gotten a note saying it would be published at the editor's discretion. But if so, it was quickly forgotten in the press of turbulent feelings that accompanied my own internal struggle. Finally, on July 5th, 1991, I swallowed hard and quit. 20 days later, the journal published the piece. A week later, I was studying invitations to speak at NASA Space Center, the Western White House, the Nashville Center for the Arts, Columbia Graduate Business School, the Colorado Librarians Convention, Apple Computer, and the Financial Control Board of United Technologies Corporation. 9 years later, still enveloped in the orbit of compulsion schooling, I had spoken 750 times in 50 states and 7 foreign countries. I had no agent and never advertised, but a lot of people made an effort to find me. It was as if parents were starving for someone to tell them the truth. My hunch is it wasn't so much what I was saying that kept the lecture round unfolding, but that a teacher was speaking out at all, and that the curious fact that I represented nobody except myself. In the great school debate, this is unheard of. Every single voice allowed regular access to the national podium is the mouthpiece of some association, corporation, university, agency, or institutionalized cause. The poles of debate blocked out by these ritualized figurehead voices are extremely narrow. Each has a stake in continuing forced schooling, much as it is. As I traveled, I discovered a universal hunger, often unvoiced, to be free of managed debate, a desire to be given untainted information. Nobody seemed to have maps of where this thing had come from, or why it acted as it did, but the ability to smell a rat was alive and well all over America. Exactly what John Dewey heralded at the onset of the 20th century has indeed happened. Our once highly individualized nation has evolved into a centrally managed village, an agora, made up of huge special interests, which regard individual voices as irrelevant. The masquerade is managed by having collective agency speak through particular human beings. Dewey said this would mark a great advance in human affairs, but the net effect is to reduce men and women to the status of functions in whatever subsystem they are placed. So, cogs in a machine. Public opinion is turned on and off in laboratory fashion. All this in the name of social efficiency, one of the two main goals of forced schooling. Dewey called this transformation the new individualism. When I stepped into the job of schoolteacher in 1961, the new individualism was sitting in the driver's seat all over urban America. A far cry from my own school days on the Monongahela, where the Lone Ranger, not Sesame Street, was our nation's teacher, and school things weren't nearly so oppressive. But gradually they became something else in the euphoric times following World War II. Easy money and easy travel provided welcome relief from wartime austerity. The advent of television, the new non-stop theater, offered easy laughs, effortless entertainment. Thus preoccupied, Americans failed to notice the deliberate conversion of formal education that was taking place, a transformation that would turn school into an instrument of the Leviathan state. Who made that happen and why is part of the story I have to tell. So John Taylor Gatto quit as a teacher. And this entire book talks about why. It's one of the best books on education I think you can find anywhere, and I highly recommend it. Any thoughts?
I do.
Well, then please do share.
First and foremost, a thought that's permeating my skull is I should get this book. Secondly, I guess isn't it weird how so few teachers really actually ever speak out or speak speak out about it?
Yes.
And it makes me wonder why not only the students but why also the teachers are sort of trapped in the system in a sense.
Well, I have a theory, but I don't know. I don't know how good it is.
Well,
The theory explains reality, but only if it's right. Like there's a very high likelihood that it's wrong, in which case it doesn't have much predictive value whatsoever. But I would say that one of the biggest reasons is because people don't value financial independence.
or independence whatsoever, I guess.
Well, they don't. Yeah, they don't value independence, but specifically the financial kind renders one less subject to the powers that be. If you have a good portfolio of investments, for instance, if you've saved, if you have lived to the point where you are producing more than you consume for a great portion of your life, and you can walk away from any job at any point for whatever reason with impunity to not have it affect you at all, you can pretty much say whatever you want. Except, of course, if you're worried about going to jail. But you don't have to worry about pissing off your employer if instead of pissing off your employer, you just go say, I quit, and then say the same thing you would have said while you were still employed. Or if you piss off your employer, they say, well, you're fired, and you say, well, good luck firing me because I quit. If you can pull that off, if you can have that screw you money, then that renders the opinions of others far less powerful in your life. But people value being able to have money and spend it on whatever I can have now. Well, I'm making so much, well, I can afford to buy a bigger house. I can afford a mortgage payment on that. Or I can afford to rent in a fancier area rather than a cheaper area. Or a nicer house instead of a cheaper house. I can eat more expensive food that isn't necessarily more nutritious. I can eat out all the time instead of making my own food. Or on the other side, having a side job, having a side hustle, doing something else, scaling it up into a business. But whatever it is, having more money coming in on a consistent basis than is going out, and then having more and more of that becoming passive. If you wind up having people giving you money in your sleep, well, it doesn't matter whether or not your employer is giving you money while you're awake, if the money that you're getting while you're asleep will cover your expenses. So my theory is that the reason people don't speak out more, the reasons teachers don't speak out more is because they are up to their eyeballs in debt, probably mostly by trying to buy a home and being stuck with a mortgage payment or renting in a place that they can afford, but only barely so, to live in. And ultimately, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So, you can blame society for one, because there are these certain expectations that everyone has, I don't know, a house, a kids, and a dog, and 2 cars, or whatever the expectation might be in any given culture. Or there's an expectation that in order to show what you have, that you buy an Audi R8 on credit or something and drive it around and burn a whole bunch of money every month paying off a car payment or something. Just buying stupid stuff you don't need with money you don't have, rather than buying really, really good things like assets with money that you do. I mean, ultimately, if you had people in a country, any country, being financially independent, it would render the entire country much more diverse. Why do you think that they don't teach finances in schools? It interrupts homogeneity. Giving people freedom interrupts homogeneity. States like homogeneity. It makes people easier to control. That's my theory.
Pretty good theory, if I may say so myself.
Well, you
If
may
I may
say,
not.
say whatever you want to stroke my ego, right?
Oh yes, of course. Whatever you say, boss.
All right, smartass. Ah, but I'm going to have a little drink. Please do share whatever thoughts come to your mind.
Well, well, yeah. I guess I'm a bit on the anarchistic side in that regard, seeing as I don't think we need schools or, well, we need a government, but not in such a high controlling fashion in that regard. I think at least. I think we all would just bypass all this schooling bullshit, government bullshit, equality bullshit if we just started doing some free trade or so. Getting our economy back on track, learning people about this, or teaching people about this. Sorry, my Norwegian snuck in.
Mm-hmm. Just like you don't lend and borrow in Finland, you just borrow and borrow.
Exactly. You don't teach and learn in Norway. You learn and you learn.
Yes, if you talk like that, people will think you're a southerner. We gonna learn him. We gonna learn him the hard way.
Oh my. Finally cracked the riddle.
So does that mean that you're suggesting that we switch to the topic of econ in the free markets, Chapter 5, demand?
It does not, actually. I haven't read that piece and I didn't know we had something about it, but quite a nice coincidence, though.
It's a wonderful coincidence. Well, since you didn't read it because, well, for some reason I think that I was very, very tired at some point and didn't actually clearly communicate what it is that I was thinking about doing, which likely sounds very much like what actually occurred. I will, okay. There we go. Make that a little bigger. And we talk about demand. The basic principle of demand is totally familiar to every reader, even those who've not studied econ. To illustrate, imagine a clothing store with a lot of winter coats on the racks as spring approaches. What will the store do? It'll put them on sale. The lower price will give customers a stronger incentive to buy, so the store will sell more. Everyone who understands that scenario understands the law of demand. The law of demand states that all other factors remaining equal, ceteris paribus, a greater quantity of a good will be sold at lower prices than at higher prices. So demand refers to actual and potential buyers in a market and the prices they're willing to pay. There we are. So here's our thought experiment. Okay, so if we think there are 5 people watching a Little League baseball game. Arthur, Betsy, Charlie, Donna, and Ellie. I love how you can just have like A, B, C, D, and D. So, let's say that you are selling water. You have and we're only roughly following the outline of this chapter here, but we're going to go with this thought experiment. You're selling water. You can see that, for instance, Charlie will pay the most amount for a first bottle. So if you go around selling water, and there's a market of 5 people, and you carry a sign saying 1 bottle of water for $10, Charlie will be your only buyer. $10 for a first bottle, 6 for a second. If you go around with a sign that says 1 bottle of water, $9, then Charlie and Ellie will buy a bottle. If you go and carry around a sign that says water for $7, then Charlie, Ellie, and Betsy will buy. If you carry uh, if you carry around a sign for water that says water at $6 a bottle, Charlie, Ellie, and Betsy will buy one, and Charlie will buy a second. If it goes down to $4, then Charlie will buy two, Donna will buy one, Ellie will buy two, and Betsy will buy one. So, you take this information here and you line it in terms of the total quantity that will be demanded at any given price. And this is a demand curve. The demand is the graph that has on the x-axis the quantity demanded and has on the y-axis the price asked. And basically any point below the curve is a point at which transactions will take place. Any point above the curve is a point at which transactions will not take place. So, this is just basic human psychology. This is basic human needs. There are certain things that we value at certain price points. That is all that demand is. We get to see Charlie's first bottle there at the 10 point. We get to see Donna's last bottle there at whatever that small number was. It was a 50 cents for a third on our chart. And every other bottle of water sold at the event in between. Now, when we get to more complicated scenarios, meaning just bigger scenarios with more participants in the market, the curve may be a little more smooth. But this general trend of it looking almost as exponential decay is pretty normal. The shape of the demand curve in this example is really, really characteristic of demand curves all over the place. So if you think about value to buyer or price on the y-axis and quantity demanded on the x-axis, that is a demand curve. And because it is just a table, ultimately, of how many people are willing to buy at what price, it gives both pieces of information. It gives quantity information about values and value information about quantities. So, going from the question, what does it tell us about a buyer value of 6? Well, we go here. We look at 6, and then we realize that, okay, or was it at 6? Yeah, $6. So we go and we take our $6 mark and we see that we will have 4 total buyers at that part. So then you just take 6 times 4 and you know that $24 worth of water will have been sold at the $6 price point at the game, uh, at the baseball game or whatever it was that wherever it was that we're selling the water. So the if you just take the two coordinates and you say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to sell at that price. Let's see if I can do a little bit of a drawing here for you. Let's say we started at $6 point with a quantity of 4. This area here is the total amount, the total value of a product that would be bought at that given point. If we wanted to look at the value at a price of say 2, we would go 9 times 2 is 18. So it would be better for us because we would only be making, we would be making 6 times 4, 24, at a $6 price point, and we would be making 9 times 2, which is 18 at a $2 price point. So it would be better for us to sell at a price point of 6 than at a price point of 2. Now, what happens if during the first inning or intermission or something, we go and we sell at a price of 6? Then everyone gets their there are $24 worth here. Then we wind up decreasing our price at the second intermission all the way to that point. Then the total value that we provide is going to be 6 times 4 is 24, plus 2 times 9 minus 4, so 10. So we're going to be making $34 in total by adding up all of those areas if we go and we sell water twice at 2 different price points. Notice that we're separating these 2 areas. We're not calculating this area twice because we're not going to be making those sales again because these sales were already made. We just have this area and that area, all of this thing together that is in the blue.
I'm not sure that it's showing on the stream.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well,
Is it me who's blind?
well, if it's not showing on the stream, oh, that sucks. Well, then here's what I'm going to wind up doing. I am going to take some screenshots of what it is that we've discussed, and I will overlay them or do something of the sort, link to them perhaps, on the video and upload it at an appropriate time, because this is actually quite important. Or what if I just do this? What if I do this? I have an idea. If it's not working, then it's not working, and that's fine, it won't work. But if it is working, then we can try. If I just do, instead of a window capture, I just capture the whole monitor. And go back over to here and show again. So we'll clear this. So our thought experiment number 1, we'll do in red. Or if we, in inning 1, sell at a price of $6, 4 bottles, there will be our 24. And if then, in inning 2, we go and sell at a price of 2, 5 additional bottles, then the total amount that we wind up selling is going to be these two pieces together. I mentioned here that this part we already sold in the first place, this particular area, this particular amount of value. So ultimately we just add this particular square, 6 times 4, and this square, this particular rectangle there, and that particular rectangle here, of 9 minus 4, which is 5, times 2. So then we get 24 plus 10. So we wind up selling $34 in value if we wind up going and selling at 2 different points during the game. Which means that both people, that we will receive more value than if we were to have just gone and sold at the $2 price point, because people would have paid the 6 earlier. It was worth that much to them, so we extracted as much value out of the market, or more value out of the market. So the idea of someone that's doing market analysis is basically trying to figure out what is our strategy for coming and selling that we can get as much as we can out of the market. And then the buyer's job is to go and look at the thing and think, okay, how can I get the most that I have, or how can I get the most I can for the money that I have? It's all playing this game, this balancing game. And if I may say, it's an incredibly fun game to play, because at least for an INTJ, optimization is a really, really, really cool and useful thing. For other people, it might might be a little bit more stressful, but at least for me, I really, really enjoy it. So that's the basic idea of the demand curve then.
I must say, surprisingly interesting.
Okay, this is a good point. Demand versus quantity demanded. Demand is the curve. Quantity demanded is the X value at any particular point on the curve. Quantity demanded is if you give me a price, I will tell you how many you will sell at that point. That is the quantity demanded. You do not call the quantity demanded demand. Those are two completely different things. So that's just a question of the naming. If you go and you tell an economist the demand is 5 units, they'll look at you and say that you're a moron. A moron you may or may not be, but you certainly don't know the terminology. So quantity demanded is that X value. And then, of course, price is that Y value. And then of course we have increases in demand. So an increase in demand would result in the curve shifting to the right. And a decrease in demand would cause in the curve shifting to the left. It always makes more sense to say shifting right or left than up or down, because more often than not the shape of the curve changes. You just move it back and forth. I'm sorry, I should be doing it since I'm not mirroring. An increase in demand is a right shift, and a decrease in demand is a left shift. So the change in demand is the shifting of the curve, and it means that at every price, more people will buy. So you can increase demand by increasing population, for example. More people will buy in an area with more people, so you can afford to sell for more. Conversely, it could just have to do with how valued a product is. More people will buy water in a desert than near an oasis, for example. Things of that nature. Those all you just have to go and look at all the different factors that might change it. Ah, oh, here we have a nice list of factors that change demand. It's been a while since I've read this too. So demographics, so age, number of people, taste and preferences. If Fiji water gets too expensive and smart water is cheaper, people will go and buy smart water. If dumb water is cheaper than smart water, i.e. tap water is cheaper than the one big bottle that you get unless you have something against tap water, you're probably going to prefer tap water to having to go and pay for a bottle, unless of course it's that much more valuable to you. If the price of peanut butter were to go down, the demand for jelly would go up, because jelly and peanut butter go together. If people think that a price is going to go up, they'll go and they'll buy it now. That happens every single time the stamp price increases, for example. And if you're in the supply chain and more people want to use your product, the demand will increase, and you can of course increase your prices. Indeed, this is something that happened recently during the idea that, oh well, we're just going to start mining Ethereum. There were a whole bunch of people that wanted to mine cryptocurrencies. For those of you watching that don't know what cryptocurrency mining is, which I'm assuming is a very small subset of you, if any, it's the process by which you add to what amounts to a register called a blockchain. The idea that X person owns so many bitcoins or so many ethereums or so many of whatever. Either way, so that produces some kind of value. People see that as valuable. And because a whole lot of people have been going and building computers with really fancy graphics cards that are appropriated for doing Bitcoin mining, the price of graphics cards have gone up, which also means that people making the graphics, the demand for graphics cards have gone up, which means that people have decided to increase the price, which has caused certain companies over the course of this mining craze to increase in value. So if you would have gone and taken a certain amount of money and actually bought stocks in companies that produced the best graphics cards or the most popular graphics cards, you could potentially have made a better return on your investment than if you would have actually started mining Bitcoin. Similarly to how Levi's Jeans Company wound up making more money selling jeans to miners than most miners wound up making digging for gold back during the days of the gold rush. People that sold pickaxes and hammers and jeans and wagons and all other sorts of different things to people going west were the ones that were actually making the money. So that's what the whole demand for goods produced using the good in question bit is about. Next time we'll talk about supply. And here we are with a half hour left.
Is it time for striptease?
Please no. Then we'll really have to age restrict this video.
I'm just 17.
Ooh, ooh.
So yeah. What's the plan for the remainder?
Chilling, talking. Maybe I'll actually open the chat. Maybe I'll be having some demand for a second monitor. I don't know. A second monitor would actually be very useful. I'd like to have the chat here, so that I could respond to people in real time rather than having to go switch back and forth. I know why, and I used to have 2 monitors, but I can actually go and talk with people. Mr. Sanderson and Mr. West have been communicating quite a bit.
Yeah.
Seems we only have 3 people watching right now, but then again, the timing is a little bit different, especially for all the other people here in Europe, because I would think that most of our viewership actually comes from Europe.
Oh. Huh. Well, I can see it.
And I'm assuming Thomas and David are both currently in the U.S. I'm almost certain of that, but I'm not entirely certain. Oh no, we have 4 watching. I wonder
Well,
that
one
might
of
be
them is
Steven.
me.
I don't know. There's actually a good question who that might be. Either way, so we've talked about hating men, we've talked about the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, we've talked about the underground history of American education, and we've talked about demand.
Yeah. You want to finish this with a bang?
With a bang? What do you mean by that? I'm not going to bang you if that's what you're asking.
Well, that would be a little difficult with the just about 100 kilometers between us. But I was
Well,
thinking more
that's not saying too much about the length of one's member.
Fair enough. Want to broadcast a little fight, perhaps?
I don't see what we would fight about.
We would fight about who's supposed to win in the chess game, of course.
Oh, that does sound like fun. Do you? I am down for a game of chess. Here, let me just see if I can change the overlay a little bit. Open up Lee Chess. And then I can show everybody exactly what a poor chess player I am.
Not sure yet.
I mean, I'm no Dr. Drunkenstein, that's for sure. All right.
So let's see here. Challenge Mr. Mlane. Shall we do the regular?
Sounds good. Let me first see if I can get this screen capture thing to be good. Yeah, there we are. So please do, yes. Oh, you gave the challenge. Good. I'll accept it. Okay, 10 minutes, and I'm on a trackpad. Okay. All right, let's see if you're a rotten little.
I'll spare you today. Oh, you won't even let me try. We're there, are we?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Actually, this is pretty good development from both of us. Neither of us have done anything too crazy.
Yes.
Yet. Yes. There
I
is
do like
that.
to get a little rough.
A little rough, huh? Well, then I'll expand on the queen side.
Okay, go ahead.
This is actually fun.
Yes, I can enjoy myself while I'm indulging.
Yeah, lichess.org. lichess.org is the site. What is this crap? What is this sorcery?
It is called Humfuckery, to be precise. It's not working very well.
Yeah, see how poorly I was playing? I should have moved my knight to f3. If I would have moved my knight to f3, I'll show the viewers by going back. If here I would have moved my knight to f3, I would have attacked his queen and king at the same time, and then he would have been forced to interpose his queen in order to be able to trade it. instead of
Full
just getting something taken away.
full flow.
See, this is what I mean by how bad of a chess player I am. Like right here is where I made my mistake. Here I should have moved my knight back down to f3. Now Gylve's busy trying to figure out what he needs to do.
Yeah. I think that if I were to myself to the safe zone, might be okay. Oh, is David a chess player?
Huh?
Is David a chess player?
Yeah, well, he's probably better than either of us. Well, at least better than me.
Oh, we're pretty even, aren't we?
Well, I don't know.
I think so. I routinely lose to you. About
Routinely.
25.
Well, at least in this particular time thing, you're up 12.5 points to 4.5.
Hmm.
Well, you're attacking the knight here on e5.
I'm attacking here.
Yes, you are. Which is a pity that I didn't see that. I mean, this is... Though... Fair exchange is no robbery.
It is robbery. Especially when I hoped you'd miss it.
So basically, for the benefit of our viewers, I'll just say that you're getting a chance to watch people that routinely blunder playing each other, and if one of us were to simply not blunder, we would immediately win.
Shit, I can't even capture.
Alright, boom.
Who is this slow-mo time?
See, now we're trapping his knight. See, now his knight can't go to a4, it can't go to c4, it can't go to d3, and it can't go to d1, so as soon as we move our rook to attack it, he's going to be forced to do something. And whatever that something is, it involves his knight getting captured.
Or developing.
Or what?
Or I can develop, you know? I should develop.
Well, that would be one thing
Wait.
to do. But, what would happen, say, were I to perform a rook lift?
What? I want to move here now, just for the fun of it, you know?
Okay. So you move that way. So we trade. takes. We'll develop our rook.
Speaking of, develop a bit ourselves.
So I have one pawn and you have an extra piece.
I've seen you pull out from worse.
I have an isolated pawn to boot. It's a passed pawn, which means that there's a likelihood that you may need to trade your piece for it, but I think that you here have the advantage. Yeah, especially trading down material when you have a material advantage.
Trading down me?
Yeah, well, you're trading away pieces. So your proportionate advantage increases when you trade away pieces when I'm down pieces.
That's true. Slow-mo time says that if you lose, he loses, or she loses, his or her soul.
Who loses whose soul?
Slow-mo time. I don't know who that is, but, you know.
Okay.
That's not it.
Ah. Okay. It's interesting.
Ho, ho, ho.
In these situations, it's interesting because a bishop and a knight.
What?
It's interesting. I can, pretty much due to the positioning of my pieces, at least temporarily negate the additional value of your bishop. Of course, you're doing that. I'll gladly trade that pawn for the bishop.
Ooh.
Not sure.
Ooh.
want to go there, and then boom. That.
How the times have changed.
This is
What I mean?
yep. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just had to be smug enough to write it in the chat before I did it.
Well, I knew that you were. I knew that you were gonna win. It's just like no, but I can't. I still can't see the chat. I'm going back and forth. Yeah, mate. Mm-hmm. Told you I suck at this.
Playing fine.
No, I'm not. I lost. That's not called playing fine. I blundered my queen twice that game.
Well, I'm not playing any better, at least. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
And
are. But technically, because you see that 1-0 thing kind of actually speaks volumes.
Well, that's fair enough, but let's, like, proportionately to the amount of hours I have in this game, you're better. Let's see here. I'm lame. Almost 13 hours on this website alone. Okay, let's go to me. 3 days, 15 hours, and 8 minutes. Beat me.
Hmm. Well, it's far from 10,000 hours, so maybe.
Oh, yes. But still. Seems to be 100 hours.
It's interesting. Maybe we can talk a bit about the Soviet chess primer that you were talking about the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Come our next stream. So I'm down for playing one more game of chess just in order to pass the time until the end of the stream, and then we can do a little bit of planning as to what it is we'll talk about tomorrow, because I was able to get the Soviet chess primer, so we can definitely talk a bit about that during, say, hour 1 of tomorrow's stream.
If my father could work, at least.
Great. Oh, I got the white pieces again.
Well,
I think I'll continue the same general continuation.
Then I think I'll switch it up.
Okay.
It didn't work that well for me last time. Even Sanderson got an account. Oh, I was just about to ask his name. I'll add it, David. I'll just need to beat Matt first.
Knight takes e4. D takes e5. This is gonna be a bumpy ride.
Oh yeah. I agree. Want a rematch? Is this like a Hail Mary?
Not exactly.
A Hail Larry?
No. Hail Gylve.
Sacrificing his great omnipotence. So great. Awoken?
There we are. That's better.
There we are.
I'll make it easier for you to grab my pieces. I promise I won't take the one if you take it with the knight.
Oh, thank you. Just gonna see how long you go.
Okay, in order for you to effectively capture this, that will be better.
Hmm. I don't know if I'll do this. Everybody needs a good queen sack. Hmm. Hmm. Is that asshole who keeps checking? Oh.
And just leaves that pawn untaken.
Oh. Well, I need you. Not. You didn't because you can't move, right?
I didn't know you needed that many pieces to develop a mating net. I have to say, nice coordination.
You must admit, this is like beautiful though. Getting so many pieces to just stand there and guard. If you can find Mr. Sanderson.
Oh, that's
we'll give him a
hilarious.
laugh.
Yeah, thank you for the games.
Oh, you too. It was fun. And David Sanderson, our beloved viewer, is right now playing against PHM73 in a
Oh,
round
excellent.
of
Now you're gonna have to tell me how I actually add people here, because... How do you add people?
Oh, you go into that little search bar in the top right and you write in their name, and then you go into their profile and just press the thumbs up.
You go to into the profile and then press
The thumbs up.
follow.
That's...
Oh, okay. So it's not friends. You just follow. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then it appears as friends. For some unknown reason.
I see. So if I click on this little thing that looks like a TV,
That looks like a...
then I can actually go and stream his game without him.
Mm-hmm.
Great, so we'll clear this layer, clear that layer, go to this one, and then stream Mr. Sanderson's game.
You look to be highly winning. Highly winning at English.
Kind of like Charlie Sheen. I think
I didn't get that right.
Huh?
I didn't get that right.
Charlie Sheen, there was this meme about being winning. Apparently he has
Oh.
apparently he had bipolar, and he was there smoking a blunt or a joint. I'm not sure which one it was. Either way, he was smoking something that clearly contained marijuana. Like, I'm not bipolar. I'm by winning. I win here, win there, win everywhere.
Oh my.
So yeah,
yeah.
Mr. Sanderson won. Congratulations. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do the point of streaming your game. But yeah, you caused the black dude to resign.
Racism?
The person with the black pieces. Boy, the white dude caused the black dude caused the white dude to resign. What in the? Ugh. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Playing in Stockfish level 3. This is interesting.
Ooh.
Oh, cool. Cool. I'll admit that this is really fun to watch. But unfortunately, we have already gone past our time. So on that note, I'll bid our lovely viewers adieu until next time. I'll have to remember, what was it that I promised that I would do? I already did the screen capture the different way, so hopefully that'll work, and then I'll just say, hey, by the way, just this whole 4 or 5 minutes that I talked and didn't have the picture, just negate it. I'll write that in the comment section or something. Either just modify it, whatever. But yeah, thank you very much, Gylve, for being here and chilling, talking, playing chess. It was great. All right.
Well, thanks for letting me comment as your viewers.
That was great. If viewers don't come at least somewhat traumatized or